Welcome to the Master of the NEC podcast, the ultimate destination for anyone passionate about the electrical trade. Whether you're a seasoned electrician, an eager apprentice, or just someone who wants to dive deep into the world of electrical work, you've come to the right place. Join your host, Paul Abernathy, a true authority in the industry with over 38 years of trade experience, as he electrifies your mind with in-depth discussions, expert tips, and valuable insights that will keep you ahead of the curve. Each episode, Paul will illuminate the complexities of the trade, decode the National Electrical Code, and share the latest industry trends, all while empowering you to take your electrical career to the next level. So, gear up, plug in, and get ready to supercharge your knowledge, because with the Master of the NEC podcast, the power is in your hands. Now get ready. Here is your host, Paul Abernathy.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Master the NEC. My name is Paul Abernathy, your host, as always, for this podcast series. If you've never listened to the podcast before, please take the time to go to your favorite search engine or even go to Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever it is, and just search for Master the NEC podcast. All separate words. Master the NEC podcast. And you'd be surprised. We have I think it's over 1,000 episodes that talk about all types of things in the electrical industry, from contracting to electrical inspections and all kinds of topics. So you're bound to find something you want to listen to there. Just kind of scroll through them, and I'm sure you'll get some little nugget of wisdom in one of the episodes you listen to. So check that out. Just search for Master the NEC podcast. All right. So on today's episode, we're going to kind of answer a question. I posted this on our TikTok channel. And by the way, my social media is always going to be at Master the NEC. So Master, THENEC, all one word. No gaps in there, no spaces in there. There's a lot of people that try to copy you and, play hate on you. But again, the only thing you see from me, if it's from me, it'll be at Master the NEC. Anything else, it's not me. So somebody puts something on social media and it doesn't have at Master the NEC on it, then it ain't me. Okay. So again, it is what it is. People like me are always a target. So anyway, so I posted a screenshot of a NECA question of the day. And by the way, NECA does a great job providing these questions for electricians. It really helps you learn and grow. Now, the other night I did a trivia. We're testing a new feature over on our YouTube channel. Of course, it also goes out on our Facebook channels as well. Again, all Master the NEC. And there was questions, and I left them in there because they came from an online database that had a lot of errors in there. And I wanted to show people how easy it is to get questions and you think you're really studying hard and you're putting the time in. And then, of course, the questions are wrong. And you don't know because there's nobody there to help you. There's nobody there to tell you that this question is wrong. And so you just take it for the face value. And the whole point behind that, again, there's always a method to the madness, was to show people that there is no substitute for a structured exam prep program. Yes, you may be able to pass. Yes, you may fumble through and get a 71 on a 70, and that's enough for you. That's fine. But if you're investing in your future, and you really want to learn the NEC that's just going to keep you from making mistakes on the job, you most certainly want to get into our structured program. And once you buy it, you own it. It doesn't expire. So again, it's an investment in you over on our website, fasttracksystem.com. And coming soon, also over on theelectricalguru.net.com and .org as well. So anyway, so there was a question. It was presented up there by NECA. And I was interested to see how they would answer this question because I know that Michael Johnson doesn't do these anymore. Johnston, he doesn't answer these anymore. And it used to be Charlie that used to answer these years ago. And I don't know who's answering them now. But they seem, the answers sometimes seem pretty generic now. That's not to throw a flag at them and say anything bad about NECA because they do a wonderful job for the industry. I would in no way imply otherwise. But I always like to discuss some of these questions. So being that this is a podcast, and I haven't yet turned my podcast into video versions of podcasts, I know everybody keeps telling me I need to do that. But again, I'm still a purist when it comes to the podcast. I love to do a podcast and then make it where I have to paint you a mental picture. It's just kind of that makes it fun for me. Otherwise, it just becomes mundane. And you will notice that when it comes to podcasts for electricians, my podcast is the only one that's been running for over a decade. And it's the only one that's still current, still puts out episodes. A lot of them come, they go, they do 5 or 10 episodes, and then they disappear. I've been doing this for the industry for well over a decade. And so, well over a decade. So, a lot of episodes to listen to. So, here was the question that was presented to NECA. And I'll read you their answer. And it's not necessarily a bad answer. And it is accurate to the level that they're going to answer it. But I also like to take questions and elaborate a little more on it, because sometimes I think more is better in some of these questions. Okay, so the question that was presented, and by the way, if you want to go look this up, it's NECAnet.org, and it's the question of the day feature. And this was the March 27th. 2026 question of the day. So it's easy for you to go and do that. Also, you can just go on to Google and type in NECA, N-E-C-A, question of the day. And it'll pop up for you too. If you can't navigate through the website and find it, typically you go to the homepage and you got to go to topics and then codes and standards, and then you'll see question of the day. And I'm in this course now. It's going to be in the archive, because now we're at April 3rd or something like that. All right, so this is from March. Now, here was the question. It said, "Good morning, question of the day. I'm wiring a motor fuel dispenser branch circuit using RMC elbows and conduit at the panel board, and we're entering the fuel dispenser. It says PVC conduit is being used between the RMC elbows. Do I still need to comply with the bonding requirements of 510.30B?" And I think they got that wrong. It's not really 510, but that happens. You know, people submit questions, and I do it. We get the numbers transposed. But I think he meant 501. But anyway, he's got 510.30B at each end of the raceway. Okay, so it says, "Thanks in advance, Corey K." Great question, Corey. It is one that people will run into when they're out doing fuel dispensing. So the first thing that we recognize that fuel dispensing is the rules specifically to fuel dispensing is in Article 514. Okay, so that's the first place that you think about when you look into this. So there are rules, and again, we're looking at 501, and of course, it's kind of changed a little bit for the 2026 edition of the National Electrical Code. Everything kind of got moved over into 500 to cover general requirements for hazardous locations. But we're going to kind of dig into the question itself and see if we can't tailor it down a little bit, because sometimes the devil is actually in the details. So the answer here that I'm going to give you is not necessarily wrong. It's just I'm going to show you how we can go and help somebody be a little deeper. And I think that's the difference between somebody who just flips open the code book and somebody who really digs into the code book and really dabbles into it like I do, and a lot of you do out there that listen. So the answer for Corey was yes. The bonding requirements in section 501.30B of the 2023 NEC still apply. Well, of course, it would, right? Because it's a metal raceway. It's got conductors in it. So we have that type of scenario. But I am going to dig a little deeper here. It says the PVC sections does not eliminate the need for bonding the metal components at each end. 514.16 covers grounding and bonding of motor fuel dispensing facilities and points us to 501.30 in the 2023 or 500.30 in the 2026, which covers the means and methods to accomplish this bonding. It says for the 2026 NEC, since the requirements of 501.30, 502.30, and 503.30 were identical, they were moved to 500.30, covering the general requirements for hazardous locations. Okay, so all of that is 100% accurate. Okay, I have no problem with that, and I'm not here again to say that NECA was wrong in this one. That is not my goal. I'm not out here to poke fingers at anybody. We're all helping each other in this industry. I will say that sometimes when you see a question like this, we as NEC experts, if you want to call it that, us, for example, I do NEC witness work, so expert witness services are available through our company, and companies can hire us to do very detailed analysis of things, and I've done that for jurisdictions, for legal cases. We have to look at all the little details sometimes. So now obviously question of the day, you can't fire a question back at somebody and ask them, to follow up. It'd be hard to do that. But my first question, I would say, you say that you're using PVC conduit is being used between the RMC elbows. But I guess my question would be, is we know that there is a requirement in the National Electrical Code to the fact that the PVC portion, the buried portion, is fine. The portion that goes from the rigid metal conduit elbows, which the question kind of pointed out, has to extend up into the fuel dispensing system. You can't bring PVC up into it. Now, again, there's going to be people out there that say, well, no, duh, Paul, that's obvious. But if you look at the question, all it talks about is RMC elbows. And the PVC conduit is being used between those. So typically, NECA's question is 100% accurate. I mean, because the between is the portion between each elbow. And it's not talking about the portion that's stubbing up. So the only reason that I bring this question up is because I like to remind people that the requirements of the code also are going to stipulate that portion, in that final run where it goes, the last 2 feet are going to actually have to go up into the fuel dispensing. That has to be rigid or intermediate. Okay. So if we were to look at the code and you were to have your code book handy and you were to go to 514, one of the areas you're going to look at is 514.8, right? And so 514.8 is talking about underground wiring. And A says metal conduit. It says threaded rigid metal conduit or threaded intermediate metal conduit with listed threaded fittings shall be permitted. Any portion of the wiring method that is below the surface of a Class 1 Division 1 or Division 2 location, and again, directly under the pump is Class 1 Division 1. The portion out from the pump is going to be around it and surrounding it is going to be typically Division 2. Okay, so you're going to be passing through what may be no classified location as it's underground, and then this raceway is going to pass into a Class 1 Division 2, and then as it continues on and comes up into the fuel dispensing, then it's going to be changing into a Class 1 Division 1, right? So, and you have various tables for that, right? 514.5. B1, we have, there's various tables that talk about that and even shows some various illustrations throughout the code, okay? All right. So that last portion that sticks up, okay? And for those that are watching, the figures that we're talking about is figure 514.5. So it kind of gives you a layout of some things. And so it's 514.5, and there's a figure there that shows some fuel dispensing pumps and all the area that extends out from that, okay? All right, anyway, I just wanted to kind of point that out. So if we look at 514.8 of your 2026 edition of the National Electrical Code, you can see that it clearly is going to allow you to use PVC in the ground part that is underground. And that is going to be in 514.8C. And it's called non-metallic conduit. It says rigid polyvinyl chloride, PVC, reinforced thermosetting resin conduit, which, by the way, is what I see most of the time in some of those, harder to deal with, but we'll see that. And it talks about high-density polyethylene conduit, HDPE, which is also very resilient in those locations. But you could use PVC. It says it shall be permitted where buried under not less than 2 feet of cover. Okay, so we have to be at least down 2 feet, regardless, by the way, of what it may say in 300.5, the table when it's a depth cover table. Regardless of that, so remember, chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 are general. 5, 6, 7, and 8 can supplement or modify anything in chapters 1 through 8. So in this case, you're in chapter 5. It's going to modify or supplement anything that would be, let's say, in chapter 3. Okay, y'all know how that works. So it allows it as long as there's at least 2 feet of cover. Now, it says where PVC conduit, RTC conduit, or HDPE conduit is used, it says threaded rigid metal conduit or threaded rigid metal conduit IMC, or intermediate metal conduit, shall be used for the last 2 feet of the underground run to emerge or to the point of connection to the above ground raceway. Okay. So, an equipment grounded conductor, EGC, shall be included to provide electrical continuity of the raceway system and for grounding of non-current carrying metal parts. Okay. So, at the end of the day, what you've really got is rigid metal conduit could be underground. That'd be fine as long as it's covered by at least 2 feet of cover. And then, of course, you would have an adapter, a changeover that would change over to a RMC or IMC. And then it would go up into the fuel dispensing. And, of course, you're going to have a seal that's inside of the enclosure of the fuel dispensing. You have a seal in there so you can seal it off. And then it comes all the way up. And so, yes, they got the question absolutely right. And the easy way to think about this is it's still a raceway. There are rules in the code that say when you have certain wiring methods, let's say, that are underground, like elbows that are metal, you don't have to bond them if they're 18 inches below cover, underground 18 inches. But here, since this is a branch circuit going out the fuel dispensing pump, it's just like any branch circuit. So the integrity of an effective ground fault current path has to be maintained. So without getting deep into the code with that, obviously, if you're going to be running a circuit, you're going to have an equipment ground, right? And so in doing so, at each end of this theoretical run, you're going to have to when you get at the end, you're going to have to make sure that you do your bonding at each end. And typically, the equipment grounded conductor also serves a bonding role in that as well. Which brings me to the point, if you're not reading my blogs, I just put out a blog the other day over on our website, fasttracksystem.com. It'll be down in the description. And on that website, I wrote a blog about the difference between grounding and bonding. And so you understand things like bonding jumpers, main bonding jumpers, system bonding jumpers, supply side bonding jumpers, equipment bonding jumpers. They all have a specific name, right? And then, of course, you have equipment grounding conductors. You have grounding electrode conductors, all the type of stuff. So they all have an actual name. And I encourage you to go check out that blog. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. We have dozens of blogs on all kinds of topics. So just kind of scroll through them. You may find one that you want to save, print out. Feel free to share my blogs on your website or with other people. I just want people to learn. That's all. That's all I care about, is I want people to learn the code a little bit better and maybe make our next generation a little bit better. Okay. All right. So yes. So obviously NECA got it right in a sense that yes, nothing takes away the requirement. You still have to bond the metal components at each end. You're still going to have to bond that rigid metal conduit at each end. And obviously, since that last 2 feet that stubs up has to be metal, so it's going to be bonded, and that's obviously going to bond the elbow if you want to use rigid elbows. That's fine. And then, of course, the PVC portion in there, well, obviously, there's no bonding PVC, but you still have to have an equipment grounding conductor located within the raceway. All right. So that answers that question. So my only additional insight to a person that submits a question like this is that I just want to make sure that when I'm answering a question that I cover all of the possibilities. So because somebody asks me about the PVC between RMC elbows, I think I owe them the courtesy of reminding them that that metal has to continue on up into the last 2 feet, up into the actual fuel dispenser, okay? Or as it emerges from grade up to, let's say, the point where it originates as well, okay? where you're going to have a seal off at each end, right? I think that it's important for me to make sure that folks understand that when I'm answering some kind of question of the day. So again, and I do encourage you to check out NECA's question of the day because they are amazing. There's an archive and there's literally goes on for years. So again, I'm going to encourage you to go check that out. But again, I just wanted to elaborate a little more on that NECA question because I think that it warranted a little more detail and a little more reference to the installer, Corey, if you're listening out there. Now, I have no doubt in my mind that you used rigid elbows and you continued it with rigid on all the way up into the full fuel dispensing. I have no doubt you did that. Okay, I have no doubt at all because at some point you're going to have to be able to put in a clean out or seal, and I should clean out a seal. And the seals of those are typically designed to work and thread into rigid metal or intermediate. So I have no doubt that you did that, but I always feel like it's just a little extra to throw that out there and tell somebody. Okay. All right, folks, that's all I really wanted to do on this episode. We're going to be cranking up a lot more podcast episodes. If you like what you hear and you've got questions that you want me to answer on upcoming episodes, just do me a favor. All you got to do is go to our website, fasttracksystem.com, and I'll put a link in the description of this video as well that you can simply just click and it'll take you to the Let's Ask Paul feature. It's a way for you to be able to ask us questions directly, and we will do our best to answer them in an email response or, if selected, on an upcoming podcast. All right, folks, till next time, stay safe. God bless. We'll catch you on an upcoming episode of Master the NEC podcast. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into another electrifying episode of the Master the NEC podcast. We hope you're feeling more powered up and ready to tackle the electrical world with the knowledge and confidence you need to succeed. Remember, in the electrical trade, knowledge is power, and we're here to make sure you stay plugged into the latest insights, tips, and code updates. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with your fellow electricians and industry pros. Until next time, keep your tools sharp, your circuits clear, and your mind focused, because here at the Master the NEC podcast, we're all about sparking your success. Stay safe, stay smart, and keep mastering the trade. From all of us here at Electrical Code Academy, thank you for all your support, and we will see you on the next amazing Master the NEC podcast episode.